This impasse continues to overshadow the financial planning for the country with no clear path forward in sight. I'm joined now by Unisa's political science professor, Dirk Kotzé. Very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you very much for your time. I don't know what you make of the fact that the day before this budget it comes before Parliament, there is still no deal, especially, between the most senior members of the government, National Unity, ANC, and the DA.
Yes, it is. I would say for us who are watching it, it is a very tight process. It's a very unpredictable process to some extent. But I think what we are starting to see now is that the parties are actually converging towards each other. And I think when the real decision will be taken, or when they must indicate how they are going to vote, that they will, the two biggest parties, the ANC and the DA, will be there to support it. I think what we are seeing is going actually beyond the budget, and that is what the ANC is criticizing the DA of. And that is that I think the DA tries to negotiate actually a relationship within the government of national unity, which they didn't or couldn't do because of the very little time after the election that existed in order to establish the government of national unity. So it's a very much a delayed process, but I think we are very at that point now. I think the same is going to apply also to the passing of the budget in Gauteng, which is at the moment not yet on the table. But I predict something similar to that. And I think what is in the end, it's not about whether the government of national unity will survive or not, but rather in what form understanding is going to be established between the two biggest parties.
But what could lie behind the DA's stance, though? Because the issues that they are now raising aren't issues, well, it's an open secret how they feel about the land expropriation without compensation, how they feel about the Bella Act, how they feel about the NHI. But I think what we haven't been able to put a finger on is why they are using this opportunity to actually go back to those issues.
Well, I think I've looked very closely at the documents that they are using, and I think it's not actually about renegotiating the different legislations like the National Health Insurance or Bella or the Expropriation Act. There might be one point, for example, in the Expropriation Act about the role of the courts in the process of determining the compensation price. But I think what is really the essence of the issue is that this situation where we are now started as a result of the fact that on the day of the budget, most of the parties were not yet consulted about what they could expect in the budget speech. And therefore now that served as a catalyst, I would say, for this process of the DA now saying, well, we are not playing the role that we are supposed to play together with some of the other parties also, and that the ANC is too dominant in the government of national unity. I would say the same is actually the situation in the Gauteng provincial cabinet. And that what the DA's objective is, the way in which I understand it as an outsider, is that they say they use this as an opportunity to recalibrate the relationships within the government of national unity, so that there is not this absolute dominance of the ANC in the government of national unity, but it should reflect the fact that there is actually some form of coalition in there where the different parties are dependent on each other and must work together.
But then, at what expense is perhaps the question? Because what if they don't support the budget at all, and the ANC fails to muster the requisite numbers of votes?
Well, that's why I said in the beginning, I don't think in the end that's going to be the outcome. I don't think either parties, especially the two big ones, the ANC and the DA, has the opportunity to really run this risk or has the liberty to run this risk. I think both of them understand that this is about the survival of the government of national unity. If one of them walk out of it, it's the end of the story. And that's the repercussions for that will be so dire that it is actually not an option. And the way in which I hear what both sides are saying is very, in a sense, conciliatory. It's saying, never saying, well, this is it's an either-or situation. You either accept or you walk out. I don't hear those type of sort of demands or statements. And it is, most of the time, is saying, we want actually this to work. So I take that for granted. It might sound naive to many people, but in most cases so far, I've been confirmed that the things that one see through an analysis of what is happening, which is looking at the subtext, not just at what we are seeing on the surface, but actually what's behind it. What is the subtext or the sub-strategy that exists? And that is what I see. And that is not to sabotage the government of national unity, but to in a sense, as I said earlier on, to recalibrate or redefine or reposition the different parties within the government of national unity.
Well, I was covering the ANC-NEC meeting this past weekend, and I got a sense, especially from senior leaders of the ANC, that they are beginning to, I can't find the word, but they don't like, what they are seeing and hearing from the DA. They believe that the Democratic Alliance is at the very least taking chances, and this is not going to bode well for the government of national unity that they are part of.
Yes, I can fully understand that, and I can understand why they are doing that, because it's the very first time ever for the ANC that they are in a situation where they are not anymore in the control of the situation, where they don't have the majority of more than 50%, where they cannot take a decision either within the ANC and the National Executive Committee or within the cabinet or their parliamentary caucuses. It's an absolutely new dispensation. And I think all the parties are still trying to understand what it actually means and how to relate to this. And it affects very much the ANC. The ANC, we all know the ANC understands itself as a party with a historical mission in South Africa. And now the message coming from the election last year is that they don't have anymore that monopoly on that mission. And that must be a very existentialistic sort of situation or position to reach, which is difficult for any association, any organization, any political party to make that adjustment.
Do you want to call it, Prof? What do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
I think it will be, they will come together, there will be an agreement, and then ultimately they will be able to pass the budget.
Professor Dirk Kotzé, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.